Hello, everybody. Um, I'm doing this video because I think there are things that the Karen Read defense is missing. And I think it's important because they're looking at it from a law side, but not from the way that a common juror would perceive this information. I've seen a lot of people convicted because of their behavior after a crime. Even when there's really no evidence tying them to it, the jury was so persuaded by their behavior that they convicted them. And in this case, I think that Jen McCabe's 911 call is the most telling piece of evidence that the jury needs to hear and understand. But they need to hear it from this point of a behavioralist. And it's also great, for being able to come back and combat the testimony of Michael Proctor. The fact that this woman, who every time she was confronted on the stand, absolutely could not contain herself. She's very hot-headed, very high-strung. Yet, for some reason, in this 911 call where a person she says she loved is on the ground dying, she's like Ben Stein. Like Bueller. No emotion, nothing at all. And this is a huge tell. This is somebody who's had time to calm themselves down and control their behavior. And she's very, very clearly controlling her behavior. And the fact that no police officer picked up on this, not a single investigator goes, her conduct during this call is very creepy. She's not the only person who seems shocked at all that John O'Keefe is laying on that yard, dying, is Karen Read. Everybody else is like, business as usual. She is as calm and casual on that phone call as if she's calling and ordering a pizza. That is not right. And they have an FBI agent now that's going to testify, as an expert witness as far as law enforcement goes. The fact that they did not pick up on that right away when trying to determine, who was a potential suspect in this, that's one of the first things you look for. Who's acting funny? Who here's acting funny? And they never do that. Never. Second point, the taillight. They need a mechanical engineer from Lexus to testify about how that taillight works. The fact that that bubble diffuser glass is documented on the scene at 34 Fairview. I'll explain how this works, and there's a video by a guy named B in Trouble. Brilliant video. But how that glass works and why it has those little bubbles in it is it works like a magnifying glass. The light in there is not a light. It's an LED, a light-emitting diode. It's very small. And they use this beveled glass like a magnifying glass to magnify the intensity of the light and to spread it throughout the light. There's too many pictures that show that taillight lit up. If that diffuser is gone, the only place you're going to see light is in the upper right-hand corner of the taillight. A jury needs to understand the mechanics of the taillight, and they would understand that the pictures that the prosecution are showing are virtually impossible. You cannot have two taillights illuminated with the same magnification like that. It doesn't work that way. If you had two flashlights pointed at you and you put a magnifying glass in front of the other one, it's going to obviously look brighter than the other one. They would not be the same intensity. It's absolutely impossible. And this is telling for a jury. This is evidence that they can't get out of their head. There's no way this is possible if that diffuser's gone. And if that diffuser's in place here after John O'Keefe has already been hit, how did it wind up at 34 Fairview afterward? That is impossible. Another point that I would go after with this FBI agent is I would ask him if he has any experience investigating cases where the crime scene has been staged. And the reason is because of John O'Keefe's jacket. anyone who understands how this works, I mean, granted, they didn't find any blood or DNA on any of the pieces of taillight lens, but there was taillight lens in John's jacket. Okay, I'll explain this so it's easier to understand. But John has this jacket on. The EMT show up. First, Karen starts doing CPR on the scene. That's why she had blood on her face and everything. Okay. And I'd also ask, why did Jim McCabe not step in and help out with that? You know, why wasn't she attempting to help save John's life? Because whoever's responsible for putting him there needs to make sure that John O'Keefe is unalive. That way he can't, when he is better, testify as to what put him there. The only one trying to save his life is Karen Reed. That is important for a jury to hear. But with the pieces of taillight in his jacket, they put him on a gurney. They put him in an ambulance. They cut his jacket off of him. They cut the chest open so that they can start to, number one, get the wet clothes off of him and get him warmed up, and number two, start life-saving care to include CPR and other methods. This is not gentle care. They're literally throwing his body around, trying to get him stabilized. How is there no pieces that fell out of that jacket onto the gurney or into the ambulance? This is impossible. Okay, this is Hansel and Gretel, the trail of breadcrumbs. It's not there. These little pieces should have been falling out all the way from where John's body was to when they moved it to the gurney, all the way to the ambulance. The fact that those pieces are still in his jacket and not in the ambulance or on the gurney, right? It doesn't work that way. It's virtually impossible to have evidence here, no evidence in the middle, and an evidence here. That is one of the key things that a seasoned investigator will notice and say, this crime scene has been staged. This actually gives credit to the defense's idea that the tail light was planted. And it is important for the jury to hear that from a seasoned investigator. There is no other way that there's taillight pieces in John's jacket, but not on that gurney and not in that ambulance. No other way. And if you're going to tell me that pieces of this taillight cut him and there's no blood on those pieces of taillight, that is truly, that's impossible. If I stab you with a knife, it's going to have your blood on it. That's just how it works. And essentially, this is the same thing. The cut or the wound is being caused by a sharp, jagged object. It's going to transfer blood to it. I don't know. I understand the legal ideas behind what the defense is doing. But they need to understand that a jury sees things differently. Did they watch the jury interviews? Did they see the juror who, when they were asking about things that they thought were key points, the jurors like, we really didn't pay no mind to that. We really didn't pay no mind to that. This is why it's important that these things be put into a juror's head, especially when it comes to the behavior of Jen McCabe. How she is clearly functioning outside of her normal behavior. Normally, an erratic person will be more erratic when subjected to extreme amounts of stress, like just finding out somebody you love is dying on the ground. Instead, she's absolutely calm. This makes no sense. And a jury is going to key off on that instantly. Instantly, they're going to know that it doesn't jive. And the last thing I would point out to them that they need to exploit. Jurors attested that they felt intimidated by the Alberts and the McCabe's being there during closing arguments, staring down the jury. The fact that, number one, they did not convict Karen Read. And then the fact that the jury felt intimidated just by the presence of the McCabe's and the Alberts, this clearly shows you the mindset of the jury. They believe those people are killers. They believe that they killed John O'Keefe and are covering this up. You're not intimidated by a normal, everyday, average person. You're intimidated by a killer. Their deliberation and their decision as a jury shows they didn't think Karen did it. And the fact that they're saying that they were intimidated by the Alberts and the McCabe's being there, this is an obvious tell that that jury thinks that those people are murderers. So, that's important. And I say use Hank Brennan's own tactics against him, just like his little scheme of barging into Aidan Kearney's courtroom the other day. He knew that evidence isn't going to be seen in the Karen Read trial. Had nothing to do with that. It had to do with getting on television in some dramatic form to plant a seed in the head of potential jurors. Now, potential jurors are just going to automatically believe that there is a connection between Kearney and Read on the witness intimidation. And they don't have to hear it in court. And Hank Brennan doesn't have to worry about an objection from the defense or scrutiny from the judge. He planted that seed and he doesn't even have to defend it. Somebody on the Read side needs to make sure that that's put out there. This jury obviously believes that the McCabe's and the Alberts are murderers. Number one, they didn't convict Karen. And number two, they were intimidated by the fact they were even in a courtroom. I hope this helps. I hope this helps because I see the defense missing some very key things that a jury, not a lawyer, not a judge, not the legal mechanics. These are the things that make a jury tick. I've seen juries convict so many people because of their behavior after the fact. I mean, I just watched a case about a man who supposedly unalived his wife by pushing her down the stairs. And they fabricated some BS, almost as bad as what they did in this case over the prosecution's saying, we've proven she hit him with a car. No, you didn't. Physics don't lie. They fabricated some staged thing too. But the main reason the jury convicted this man was because when the police notified him that his wife was dead, he was just calm and somber and acted weird. And that didn't sit right with the jury. And he did almost 10 years in prison before he got another trial and was actually acquitted. I don't want to see that happen in this case. The first step in an investigation that most people are going to look at is who's acting weird? Who's acting weird? Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes it's someone being overly dramatic and you can tell they're acting. In this case, Jim McCabe's conduct during that 911 call sends up so many red flags. It's inexcusable to not ask her questions. All right. Hopefully this helps, and I really hope that this trial puts an end to this, because I see someone who's innocent. I don't think Karen Read is innocent. I know she is, because there's no way that beveled glass is at 34 Fairview, where we can see a picture of the taillight after John O'Keefe was hit, and it's a fuzzy picture, but you can see that the light intensity from both lights are the same. That cannot happen, because the magnifying glass, the beveled glass that's in that diffuser, is supposed to be gone from the car at that time, because it's supposedly on the ground at 34 Fairview. This is impossible. And a mechanical engineer who can explain how they use those LEDs, right, and how that beveled glass in the diffuser works like a magnifying glass to increase the intensity of light and to spread it throughout the taillight, a jury must hear that. A jury must hear that. There's no way a jury can, at that point, believe that when that picture was taken showing those two taillights at the same intensity, that diffuser's gone and laying on the ground at 34 Fairview. But what is laying on the ground at 34 Fairview at that time is John O'Keefe. The only way that bubbled glass finds its way to 34 Fairview is somebody had to have taken it there after that picture of the SUV was taken. And Hank Brennan's whole argument about not Hank Brennan at the time, it was Adam Lally, argument that the light was white, that is impossible, because the LED is red. It is a red light-emitting diode, not a light bulb. So hopefully this helps. And I hope that the defense somehow hears this and they're able to use it to their advantage. All right. Have a lovely day, and hopefully justice is served.